In this list, we're going to take a look at some of the most expensive mistakes in history. These are mistakes that cost billions of dollars, ruined reputations, and even caused deaths. But even in the midst of these disasters, there are lessons to be learned. Lessons about the importance of safety, planning, and communication. The 1988 Yellowstone Fires. The largest fire in Yellowstone National Park's history started in 1988. At first, there were a few small fires, but they quickly merged into one giant wildfire that burned for months. For the first time in its history, the park had to close. The fires finally ended when it started to rain. By then, they had burned 793,980 acres and killed 2 people. The total cost of the damage was over $267 million. The collapse of the Sampoong department store. On June 29, 1995, the Sampoong department store in Seoul, South Korea, collapsed, killing 502 people and injuring over 900 others. It was the deadliest non-deliberate building collapse in history until the 2013 Rana Plaza factory collapse in Bangladesh. The collapse was caused by a combination of factors, including poor construction practices, overloading of the floors, and a failure to heed warnings about cracks in the building. The day before the collapse, employees reported hearing loud cracking noises and seeing cracks in the ceiling. The store manager ordered the 5th floor to be closed, but he refused to evacuate the entire building. The Sampoong department store collapse was a national tragedy in South Korea. It exposed the corruption and shoddy construction practices that were rampant in the country's booming economy at the time. The collapse also led to a number of reforms in the construction industry and a greater emphasis on safety. The Sampoong department store collapse is a reminder of the importance of building safety and the need to hold those responsible for building failures accountable. It is also a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing our loved ones. Sunshine Skyway Bridge collapse. On May 9, 1980, a tragedy struck the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, a vital transportation link between Tampa and St. Petersburg, Florida. A freighter ship collided with the bridge, causing the southbound span to collapse. The collapse killed 35 people and injured several others. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Collapse was a devastating event that had a profound impact on the people of Tampa Bay and the United States as a whole. The collapse is a reminder of the importance of bridge safety and the need to be prepared for unexpected events. It is also a reminder of the importance of human life and the need to value the safety of those who travel on our bridges and roads. The cause of the collapse is still debated today, but it is believed to have been caused by a combination of factors, including human error, mechanical failure, and poor weather conditions. The freighter ship, MV Summit Venture, was sailing under the bridge when it was caught in a sudden squall. The ship's captain lost control of the vessel, and it collided with the bridge support pier. The impact caused the southbound span of the bridge to collapse, sending several vehicles and a Greyhound bus into the water below. The Bhopal Disaster. The disaster occurred at a Union Carbide pesticide plant in Bhopal, India. A leak of methyl isocyanate, MIC, a highly toxic gas, killed thousands of people immediately and caused significant morbidity and premature death for many thousands more. The cause of the leak is still debated, but it is believed to have been caused by a combination of factors, including poor safety procedures and maintenance. Thousands of people died immediately, and many more died in the days and weeks that followed. The leak also caused serious health problems for many survivors, including respiratory problems, blindness, and cancer. The Bhopal disaster is a reminder of the dangers of industrial accidents and the importance of safety regulations. It is also a reminder of the importance of corporate responsibility and the need for companies to be held accountable for their actions. The Bhopal disaster is a tragic event that should never be forgotten. It is a reminder of the importance of safety, corporate responsibility, and the need to protect human life and the environment. The Bhopal disaster was a preventable tragedy. It is important to learn from our mistakes and take steps to prevent them from happening again. The collapse of the Charles de Gaulle Airport. On a seemingly ordinary day in May 2004, a section of Terminal 2E at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport collapsed, killing 4 people and injuring several others. This tragic event sent shockwaves through the world, as one of the busiest airports in the globe had suddenly become a scene of disaster. The collapse was caused by a number of factors, including a design flaw in the roof structure, inadequate construction practices, and a lack of safety measures. The roof was made of a thin concrete shell that was not strong enough to support the weight of the building, and the construction company had used substandard materials. Additionally, the airport had failed to implement adequate safety measures, such as installing emergency exits and alarms. The collapse occurred at around 6:30 a.m. when the airport was relatively quiet. A witness described hearing a loud cracking noise, followed by the collapse of the roof. The collapsed section of the terminal was about 100 meters long and 50 meters wide. The collapse of Terminal 2E had a significant impact on the operations of Paris-Charles de Gaulle Airport. The airport was partially closed for several days, and flights were disrupted. The collapse also raised concerns about the safety of other airports around the world. The collapse of Terminal 2E is a reminder that even the most seemingly mundane places can be dangerous. It is important to be aware of our surroundings and to take precautions to stay safe. 3 Mile Island Accident. On March 28, 1979, the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania experienced a partial meltdown of its Unit 2 reactor. It was the most serious nuclear accident in U.S. history. The accident began with a minor malfunction in the secondary cooling system, which caused the reactor to automatically shut down. However, a series of human errors and design flaws prevented the emergency cooling system from working properly. As a result, the reactor core began to overheat and melt down. Operators at the plant were able to prevent a complete meltdown, but the accident caused significant damage to the reactor core and released a small amount of radioactive material into the environment. No one was killed or injured in the accident, but it caused widespread fear and anxiety among the public. The 3 Mile Island accident was a major turning point in the nuclear power industry. It led to a number of safety reforms and regulations, and it also increased public skepticism of nuclear power. The 3 Mile Island accident is seen as one of the most expensive mistakes of all time because of the high cost of the disaster in terms of economic impact, public health costs, and environmental damage. The Big Dig. The Big Dig was a massive infrastructure project in Boston, Massachusetts. It involved burying a 2.5-mile stretch of highway that ran through the heart of the city. The project was designed to reduce traffic congestion and improve air quality. Construction on the Big Dig began in 1991 and was completed in 2003. The project was originally estimated to cost $4.3 billion, but it eventually cost over $15 billion. The Big Dig was plagued by delays, cost overruns, and safety problems. In 2006, a portion of the ceiling collapsed on a car, killing one person and injuring another. Despite the problems, the Big Dig was completed and opened to traffic in 2003. The project has had a significant impact on Boston, reducing traffic congestion and improving air quality. The Big Dig is a reminder of the challenges of large infrastructure projects. It is also a reminder of the importance of careful planning and execution. The Big Dig was seen as the most expensive mistake of all time because of its high cost, delays, and safety problems. The project was also criticized for its lack of transparency and accountability. The Fukushima nuclear disaster. The Fukushima nuclear disaster was a complex event with many causes. The earthquake and tsunami caused significant damage to the power plant, disabling its safety systems and leading to a meltdown of 3 of its reactors. The meltdown released large amounts of radioactive material into the environment, contaminating the air, water, and soil. The Japanese government responded to the disaster by evacuating millions of people from the affected area. However, the evacuation process was chaotic, and many people were exposed to radiation. The government also struggled to contain the radiation leak, and it took several months to bring the reactors under control. The Fukushima nuclear disaster had a devastating impact on Japan. The earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear meltdown killed over 15,000 people and displaced hundreds of thousands more. The disaster also caused billions of dollars in economic damage. It was caused by a combination of factors, including poor safety regulations, inadequate preparation for natural disasters, and a lack of transparency from the government. The Fukushima nuclear disaster is seen as the most expensive mistake of all time because of the high cost of the disaster in terms of human life, economic impact, and environmental damage. The disaster also had a significant impact on the global nuclear industry, leading to a decline in public support for nuclear power. The Fukushima nuclear disaster is a reminder of the dangers of nuclear power and the importance of safety. It is also a reminder of the high cost of mistakes, both in terms of human life and money. The Apollo 13 disaster. On April 11, 1970, the Apollo 13 spacecraft launched on a mission to the moon. But just 2 days later, an explosion in one of the spacecraft's oxygen tanks crippled the ship and forced the crew to abort their mission. The Apollo 13 disaster was a near-fatal event, but it was also a triumph of human ingenuity and perseverance. The crew of 3 astronauts, Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes, were able to use their skills and training to survive and return home safely. The Apollo 13 disaster was caused by a faulty oxygen tank. The tank ruptured, releasing oxygen and other gases into the spacecraft. The resulting explosion damaged the spacecraft's electrical system and forced the crew to abandon their mission to the moon. With the spacecraft's electrical system damaged, the crew had to find a way to conserve power and return home safely. They moved into the lunar module, which was designed as a lifeboat in case of an emergency. The crew of Apollo 13 faced many challenges on their journey home. They had to ration their food and water, and they had to find a way to keep the lunar module warm enough. They also had to navigate their way back to Earth without the use of the spacecraft's main computer. The Apollo 13 disaster was seen as the most expensive mistake of all time because of the high cost of the mission and the potential for loss of life. The mission cost an estimated $400 million, equivalent to over $2.5 billion in today's dollars. And if the crew of Apollo 13 had not been able to successfully return home, the loss of life would have been immeasurable. In addition to the high cost of the mission and the potential for loss of life, the Apollo 13 disaster also had a significant impact on NASA's space program. The disaster forced NASA to delay future Apollo missions and to make major changes to the spacecraft design. The Apollo 13 disaster was a costly mistake, but it was also a valuable learning experience. NASA learned a great deal from the disaster, and it made changes to its space program to prevent similar disasters from happening in the future. The Apollo 13 disaster is a reminder that even the most expensive mistakes can be overcome.